What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 152 of Littleroot Lessons. As always, I'm your host, Carter Noble, joined by our fantastic co-host, Carl Wilkin. Sup, dude?
I am tired.
I feel that. It's been a rough, 20 hours.
I wouldn't say, 20 hours. It's been a rough week. I've been very busy this week, doing a lot of stuff, running around. But I'm ready to get back into Pokemon, because I haven't touched Pokemon, I feel like, in a week and a half, because I've been working and doing stuff and watching Zooter randomizer races, because the tournament season for them started like a month ago.
Yeah,
that's what I do in my free time now.
I'll take it, man. I've been for whatever reason, I go through these fixation periods of, hey, I haven't looked at Game Pass in a while. I should probably go do that, see if there's anything cool on there.
I understand. Yep.
So just ooh, here's Lego Star Wars, and here's the TMNT game that just came out, and it's now we got those, so we can play those again, and just all right, well, whatever. I didn't have time for anything else anyway.
I understand. But I still I'm on the Switch. I opened my Switch for the first time on Thursday night to do Micro Ninja Raid. Mm-hmm. I did 3 of them. I caught Micro Ninja, and then I'm just I'm just gonna put this away now.
I haven't even done that, so you're doing better than I.
I have a Clodsire. I can loan you.
I might steal that from you and just solo it and get it done with.
And then I'll need it back because it's my wife's. I built it for her, but she's not interested in Greninja as much as I am.
So this comes out the 30th. We have Orlando this next weekend starting on the 4th.
Yep.
And then the 25th is Knoxville. Is there anything in those weekends in between?
Other than the 2 Rumbles that we're hosting? No.
When is OCIC?
It's also, I believe that's the same weekend as Knoxville.
Let's take a look.
It's either the same weekend or the weekend before.
It is the 17th.
It's the weekend before.
19th. Yep. Wait. No, yeah. My calendar went back to February. I'm that's in the... went back to January. I'm that's in the middle of the month. But yeah. Yep. Okay. So yeah, we have Orlando, a week off, and then OCIC followed by Knoxville.
Yeah, Series 2 will go through a lot of growth very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Very excited for it.
I have heard multiple times that it's just I don't like this format. I think it's not fun. And I think part of it is just we don't have anything to really go off of outside of Showdown Ladder.
Yep, and I think that's a big part of it. And that's kind of why I haven't really done a lot of prep or anything yet, where it's just well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know when I want to play or what I want to play anything yet. So it's just until then, I'm just going to hold off and wait and see where the format goes before I start really prepping for it.
Yeah, I think that once we get actual in-game cart ladder, that'll kind of change things a little bit. People that normally wouldn't be sitting around waiting for a format, they'll start playing again. We'll start to see some more meta development. Team rental codes will be shared a little bit more frequently. We do have grassroots tournaments going on. I know Nino and Beanie have been hosting really large, really cool events. I know the Wide League has an event. We're recording this on Saturday. The Wide League has an event tonight. We have Victor Road and us both have an event the weekend of Orlando. So it's not there's a lack of places to play and practice and actually get good experience in. Part of it is probably best of one Swiss kind of dragging people a little bit, because as online events, you kind of just want them to go by quickly.
You want to get them in and out and over with, and I understand that as well. I forget who had mentioned it, but they're these events feel good because they don't hold up the TOs all day. They don't take away from everyone all day. The best of one Swiss rounds are kind of just playing on ladder, but you have open team sheets, so you get to play and figure things out. And then your top cut is where you get that actual best of 3 your best of 3 experience going in and everything. So I do think that it makes a lot of sense, especially just for trying to not make it all day.
Yeah, when you have 200 plus people, we're not a small organization. Like, I know Nino has a very small group that probably helps him run his tournaments. I know Beanie's probably the same way. I know that it's me and Swede is all we have for Littleroot lessons right now, and we don't have all day to be running 12, 13-hour events for just the Swiss rounds, right?
Yep.
Like, when your event has 200, 300, 400 people in it, it's hard to do that many best of 3 rounds in a day, especially for players too, because that's a whole day lost for them as well. And so these best of round Swiss rounds are faster, and you essentially just treat every game as a as game 3 of a best of 3. Yep. You have a little bit less information, true, than you would in a normal best of game 3, but with open team sheets, you get to know enough that you can still make informed decisions about what your opponent's team is doing, rather than just being blind. I think if we didn't have open team sheet, we wouldn't see best of 1 Swiss at all. I don't think it would be a thing.
No, not at all.
Because it just wouldn't be fair. It's just like, at that point, you just go play on ladder. But I think best of 1 Swiss is probably going to stick around for as long as we have open team sheets. And I don't think they're going to ever go away from open team sheets, period. I don't see a reason
I'd be very surprised if that was the case.
Like, I depending on how the next games go, they might change the rules. They might say, oh, we didn't like this from Scarlet and Violet, but I think open team sheets is good for the game. And
I fully agree with that. I think it's a very good thing for the game as a way to, prevent people to really just like help solidify people and like having this like idea of, well, this is what my opponent has, this is what I need to be able to play around. I think it's a very good way to play the game.
And like, everyone who complains about creativity and things like that's a whole different argument. We're not here to get into that today, but what we are here to do is just a fun little tier list of Tera types going into Series 2.
So this is using a little bit of like the data we've had from Series 1 and being able to like parse that data and be able to figure out, hey, what's good, what's not, etc., as well as like kind of speculation moving forward of what from the events we've seen and everything, what we can infer from them.
Yeah. So let's go to this tier list page here, so everyone can see what we're doing here. Hello. Everyone should be able to see this lovely tier list. I'm gonna just kind of get a rough thing going for Series, like what we thought Series 1 was. I know that you and I both have a couple of different opinions on like what Series 1 and stuff is. I'm like a big proponent of like steel and fire types. I know you really value that grass and dark type. So I'm going to try and mismatch our 2 lists together here in kind of a consensus way.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we both kind of, like, when this idea was presented to us, it's just like, yeah, we can slap one of these together real quick. And so you and I both did our individual ones. And I think the general consensus is steel is by far the best Tera type, and it's not particularly close. So I think we can very, very quickly say that.
That's kind of like the big idea, right? It's just like they're the really strong ones. Like, steel and fire are both super duper strong in Series 1, mainly just because all the popular Pokemon are weak to fairy.
Yeah, I think a big part is steel and fire are both very good for 2 different fairy reasons. Steel is by far the best because it has like the most resistances, and also it has 1 immunity, and it hits fairy, which is considered like the best type in the game super effectively as well. So like it just does a lot to really make itself just the best. Being able to be immune to poison is also a big deal. I say a big deal. Not really. Like, you're not going out and like getting toxic in doubles and stuff like that. But I have something I have ran into a couple different times is like Toxic Spike's Meowscarada. It's like, well, okay. Good thing I'm Steel type here, so I can't get poisoned there. But yeah, Steel is just by far the best type, and I don't think it's really a debate. The big thing here that you and I I didn't think about it until you had mentioned it when you sent yours to me, is fire's really, really good for like your physical Pokemon in a way to prevent them from getting burnt. And that's not something I had really thought about. I had done that for grass and being able to be like, hey, grass is really good because you're not able to get spored and you're not able to get rage powdered and stuff like that. And I think that's something that's going to go up in Series 2 is just the amount of like grass Teras you see. And if you go and watch the laddering video from last week, Dad and I played a best of 3 for the dojo, and he had grass, Mousehold and a Rangaroo. It's like, well, I cannot spore anything to prevent this Trick Room from going up. I guess this is just going to be how it is.
Yep.
And having it where your physical attackers just can't be burnt is also a very good way of dealing with that. And I think that's something you're going to see for like Iron Hands. I think Iron Hands having Tera Fire is going to be kind of common. The one I've personally been playing with is like Lum plus Tera Flying. So like you can just punish the Amoonguses that way. But there's being able to be immune to burn, I think is a very, very big deal for for fire types. Plus, like, Tera Fire is always, like, Tera Blast Fire is good into, all the opposing, like, Amoonguses running around, all the Tera Steels that are running around. There's a lot to really like about Tera Fire.
Yeah. So this is kind of where we think Series 1 is kind of currently sitting, like, in terms of good Tera types, things we commonly see. I think grass, like you said, you had grass really, really high. I had grass a little bit lower just because weaknesses and things like that. I think it's better on like the Flash Fire Pokemon that need it, or like the Pokemon that are going to set up something like Trick Room or something like that.
I agree with that.
So it's not like top of my list.
I think the argument there is it's so impactful for those Pokemon that I have it higher.
Yeah.
Just like I'm also higher on Dark than you were because I felt like Dark for that same reason.
Yeah.
Being able to not just be hit by prankster Pokemon, I think is a good deal. But I do think that having Dark in A tier is probably pretty okay. Being able to just have it like set up and have it, it's a good offensive typing, and it's a very good defensive typing for all the like prankster Pokemon. But that's surprisingly something we haven't seen a lot of that I really did expect was more like prankster Grimmsnarls running around, and we just haven't really seen it.
I think that'll change once we get into Series 2. So,
I think screens are going to be better than what they are now. Just being able to have a higher damage output format means that you're going to need more bulk on things.
That, and it's like speed control is going to mean a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be much harder. Like right now, you can Tailwind most of the time to interact with things, but now we're going to be getting into like 300 plus territory, and a lot of Pokemon that would normally outspeed the threats under Tailwind aren't going to hit that match very often.
Mm-hmm.
But to the tier list, we're gonna probably start at the D tier, kind of talk our way up the list, see if we want to move things up or down, and kind of adjust it from there. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds great.
So the D list is probably not going to move too much. Bug, Ice, and Psychic.
All three of these typings are pretty bad.
They're definitely like underperforming compared to some of their other ones. Like talking over it, I think of the D list, I think Bug is probably the best Tera of the bunch, which is saying something.
Really shocking, man. Bug is just such a bad type.
But Bug is getting the short end of the stick. It has the potential to be really good. It's just they when they put Fairy in the game, it really messed with how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they should have made Bug beat Fairy instead of Fairy resisting Bug.
I fully agree with that.
I think change would have made Bug so much more playable in terms of VGC. Even just Bug resisting Fairy would have made it usable as a type.
I think that's a big deal. It's like you change that one match type matchup, and I think Bug becomes that much better.
Yeah, Bug definitely jumps from D to probably up there with at least Poison and C, maybe almost B, because Bug does resist ground. It resists fighting. You do have a ton of weaknesses, but like there's some work that they could have done to Bug to make it really, really good, and I think they're just too afraid to mess with the type chart too much.
The last time we saw that was
Fairy.
Was it Gen 6 when they added in Fairy?
It was in the added Fairy, yep.
And then was Gen 6 also when they nerfed Steel?
Yes.
Or was that Gen 5?
Nope, it was Gen 6.
Okay, so it was going to take a lot for them to change it at this point.
It takes them adding a new type.
Happening. Yeah. I just don't see it happening at this point.
We could get a new type in Gen 10. Who knows? Or Gen 12.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
And then they make Bug good again.
To also combat that, Psychic kind of isn't that good.
You take a ton of neutral hits, unfortunately.
You don't have a lot of resistances, and the resistances you do have aren't all that common. Whereas your weaknesses are, I don't want to say prominent, but also they are just more played than everything else. It feels like, being weak to Dark, being weak to Ghost, and technically you're weak to Bug too, but you're not going to see a lot of that one. It just makes it hard out here for turning into a Psychic type.
Yeah.
You have to have a very good reason to do so, and I don't know what that reason would be.
Spam Expanding Force. That's about it.
But that's one Pokemon.
That's it. That's the only reason why you would see it.
Yep.
Ice, unfortunately, is in the same boat. It's one of the best it's one of the better types in the game right now because you get to Tera away from its type.
It is a very good offensive typing, and defensively it is terrible.
And that's when you take your ice types and you make them a water type. You make them
a
grass type.
That's why you're going to see a lot of your iron bundles are not going to stay ice types.
No, they will likely Tera water if they need to terastallize at all. I've also seen Tera grass bundle, which is really cool.
I'm actually over here. I have this is Beanie's tour up. I'm just kind of going through it and looking, and a lot of them are just water.
Yeah, water is the safe one. Water, water, as you see on the list, is very, very high. That's mainly just because it only has 2 weaknesses and some decent resists. Whereas ice is a liability a lot of the time defensively, and so that's why you see things like Abomasnow that are ice grass. They still have a niche in this format because they get to Tera away from that terrible combination of types into something that's a little bit better defensively.
Yep, full agree.
That kind of brings us into our C tier. This is a lot of types that are common coverage moves in certain spots, but defensively just don't stand up to what's going on around them a lot of the time. Think rock, flying, fighting, poison, normal, things like that.
Speaking of rock types, I'm sitting here looking. There's a rock frost moth in, I think this is 9th place here for Beanie's tour.
That's kind of cool.
It is. It's really cool. Too bad it's rock and a frost moth.
I mean,
I'd be interested to see how good that actually was for them.
Think about it this way: a lot of rock's weaknesses are special attackers.
Mm-hmm.
Water.
It makes sense.
Grass. And so ice scales means that you're taking less damage, which is fine. But that's part of the issue with rock is there's other weaknesses besides water and grass. You got ground, you got fighting, steel. So rock overall, while being a decent coverage move type for a lot of Pokemon, just not really the greatest when it comes to defensive typing.
I think that's you talked about that when we first brought up this tier. It's just that's a lot of what these are. It's just these are okay coverage moves, but for the most part, you don't really care about being that type.
Yeah.
I think the one exception is your normal types being able to Tera normal to be able to get your E-speed damage boost is the one thing. The third place team from Beanie's Tour has Choice Band Normal Dragonite and Life Orb Normal Arcanine.
Yeah, just like maximize your +2 priority move.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Overall, I think a lot of these types, I think flying is no longer like a must-have, especially now that you can Tera into away from like a flying from a ground weakness. So it's like flying's cool in that regard, but you could also just Tera grass.
Yeah.
Like and then you get extra bonuses. Yes, you still take damage, but you get other bonuses of being a grass type instead of just avoiding a ground type move. Poison is like the one where I'm like, could I move this up? Because it is a fairy resistance. It is decently offensive. It's decent offensively, and Garganical loves to be Terra Poison.
Yeah, which is a shift from what we have seen for like majority of Series 1 and like prep into Series 1 was you saw Ghost Garganachi. So it's like being able to change that to now Poison is really interesting. But at the same time, it kind of all makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think that if I remember right, the big reasons why you see Poison Garg is you resist grass and you resist fighting naturally, which, like, Ghost is immune to fighting, so that was kind of a wash, but you don't resist a whole lot outside of, like, as a Ghost type. You take a lot of neutral hits, unless they're hitting you with normal or fighting type moves, which Garganical's huge defense stat is usually not a problem for it, but I think Poison offers better, like, resistances for that rock type in specific. And it was also just like a meta call for one of the events that had a Terra Poison Garganical because they were eating toxic spikes from Glamora.
Yeah.
It was more like, so it was an adaptation more from a meta call than just being like what's optimal. And it'll be interesting to see if Garganical keeps that Terra Poison as Series 2 kind of develops.
For sure. Looking at this, the first place team from Beanie's Tour had Poison Garganachi on it. So, like, it's still around. It's still going to see play.
Is that enough to move it into B?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Like, my big thing is, like, you only ever really see it on Garg. So, like...
For now. That's all you see it on for now.
That's also true, is, like, for now. Being able to resist steel is also, I think, fairly important. You do resist steel, right? I'm not making things up there.
No, poison is steel's immunity. Steel's immune to poison.
Yeah, but is poison not resistant?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. No.
Am I just making this up?
I think you're just making this up.
Because where did I make that up from?
I don't know. As far as I remember, poison's immunities are fighting, fairy, and I believe poison. Those are the only ones I can remember anyway.
I swear. I'm looking it up.
Okay. Talking about the other ones we didn't really touch on, normal and fighting. Normal, like you said, is it's good when you have E-speed, but that's about really it. I could see like Giga Impact maybe making a push eventually, if depending on like what the format turns into. Terra fighting just isn't that great. Fighting has a lot of inherent weaknesses that aren't really that common, but like the big one being you're weak to fairy is a big deal. Yep,
I'm dumb.
You're just making it up?
You resist bug.
Yeah, that's not relevant.
You resist bug and you resist grass.
That's the other one. Grass is the big one.
Yeah. I don't know where I'm making that up from.
It's because you're thinking about steel's immunity to poison.
Mm-hmm. But, like, I don't know. Just the other way around. I figured it had some type of resistance. But, nope. Whatever.
It's because you can contain poison in metal containers and not have a problem.
I don't know, man.
Because that's how Pokemon logic works. So yeah, I could see like an argument to move poison and normal maybe into really low B. But for right now, we'll leave them where they're at, and we'll talk about some other types and see where we're at.
Did we talk about fighting at all?
Yeah, while you were looking up types, fighting's problem is you're weak to fairy.
And you're weak to flying.
Like, flying...
Both of which are very common.
Flying type as a Pokemon are very common. Like, you see them a lot because Tailwind, right? And so Tera fighting just isn't really ever that safe. And if I remember right, fighting's resistances aren't that great a lot of the time.
Let's see. You resist Bug, Rock, and Dark.
Yeah. Like, Tera fighting's uses are few and far between. Enough to the point where you're like, you never really want to Tera into this type unless you, like, close combat. Or some strong fighting type coverage. That brings us into our B tier. These are more common Tera types that are good in certain situations. Mostly can be used offensively, but as we get closer to the A tier, they also offer very good defensive capabilities. Think things like Grass, Electric, Ground, and Dragon.
Yeah, so I think you could make an argument that Grass should probably be one higher. I really do think that moving into like Series 2 and stuff, it's going to be really important. And I mean, it's already fairly common. Yeah. I think the other three are pretty okay right where they are, though.
It's weird seeing Dragon so far down.
So, it's weird, right? Because like Dragon has the most the second most resistances, is that right? Compared to Steel. So Dragon has 4 resistances, all of which are really common typings of Fire, Water, Grass, Electric.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's just
Steel
that
has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Steel
7, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah.
And an immunity? This is absurd.
Why do you think Steel is the best neutral Tera type?
God, it's so insane, dude.
Spoiler, Steel's probably not moving out of that S tier bracket.
No, Steel is staying right where it is. I don't think there's any argument for that.
There's an argument that you could move Dragon out of B into C.
So,
while yes, you are correct that it resists Fire, Water, Grass, Electric, you then become weak to Fairy, weak to Ice, weak to opposing Dragon type moves, which, if you didn't know, Dragon types are really good right now in Scarlet and Violet. So a lot of Dragon coverage is running around. A lot of Ice coverage is out there right now. And so Terroring to a Dragon type is only really beneficial when you want to hit something.
I was going to say, I think it's really just like Dragon types that are tearing to Dragon to get that extra damage. That's really the only time you ever see it.
Like, I could see Dragon down to C and putting normal up to B.
I'm actually pretty okay with that. I think normal is going to be more common than Dragon.
Yeah, as we get into these more powerful formats, that choice band extreme speed that we saw in preseason, quote unquote, from like Dragonite with Chien-Pao, I think that starts to become more prevalent.
Man, I am not looking forward to that again.
We'll likely have other Pokemon to help
for sure.
In that format. Don't worry about the ruins too much. I think they're going to be great, but
even just looking at like these tournament results and everything is like all the dragons you see, none of them are even Tera Dragon. So like,
nope.
I don't know, man. It kind of sucks, but like, I think you're right. I think Dragon's just not a very good typing here.
Especially going into Series 2 where there's like Fluttermane. On pretty much probably every team. Iron Bundle on every team. Fairy and Ice coverage is going to be so abundant. You could probably convince me Dragon as a Tera type should be here in D. You could convince me that. You could probably convince me
It's just so uncommon, man. I think it's better than all the ones in D just because of your resistances.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's just not very good.
You could argue with me and maybe try to convince me that you could put it into D with the Bug, Psychic, and Ice. But I think, like you said, the 4 resistances it has make it better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to put it below Poison for sure, because I think Poison's actually like a fine Tera type.
I think you're fine there, yeah.
Ground. Ground is another, like just like Dragon, is a very good offensive Tera type. It really hits really hard. most of the time you're just like clicking Earthquake, or in the case of Great Tusk, you're going to be clicking Headlong Rush.
Yeah.
I can't
hits
wait.
really hard.
I can't wait to be people trying to calc for Tera Ground Headlong Rush, just to watch them get Tera fighting close combated.
Like you were ready for one, but not both. The fact that Great Tusk gets both of them is kind of absurd.
Yeah, I love it. Ground has resistances to what? You resist.
See, ground is resistant to. See, you're weak to water, grass, ice. You're immune to electric, resist poison, resist rock.
Yeah.
So overall, not a very good type.
Yeah.
Because, like, you take a ton of neutral hits, you have one immunity, you have more weaknesses than you have resistances. So, like, that in and of itself is not good. But
that immunity
that immunity can
really
mean something. Especially, something we haven't really seen a lot in this format is, like, just Disquake spamming. And I think that's something that you could see more commonly in the future. Like, I think that's just, like, not an archetype people have explored yet.
I would love to see, like, this Pokemon happens to get Earthquake, pair it next to Rotom, and then you get to Tera Ground and spam your Earthquake anyway.
Let me pull something up here, because I'm curious what would actually make sense here for Series 2.
Baxcalibur did Tera Ground there for a while because you get to Terra Blast and Earthquake and things like that. In Series 2, though, I'm not sure. Something that isn't already a ground type.
Highest attack stat that also gets access to Earthquake is Slaking.
Neat. I'm not surprised by that fact, but neat.
Then Haxorus, Baxcalibur, Iron Hands, and Roaring Moon.
Tera Ground Iron Hands doesn't seem terrible.
You get rid of all of your weaknesses?
Yeah.
Like, right? You don't have anything that lines up with either of those?
No. You just don't gain resistances to any of them either.
That's yeah.
You do get to carry electric coverage for the water types in front of you.
That is true. You can just Thunder Punch them.
You can just punch them. But overall, I think Ground is in a better spot than like Dragon, just because you do have that electric immunity, and electric is a very common like type to have right now because there's things like Palafin Rain running around. Iron Bundle's going to be popular, so I think Tera Ground is going to be stronger in Series 2 than it was in Series 1, especially as we start to see more ground types, I believe in general, pop up due to the change in the format.
For sure.
That leaves electric and grass. Electric obviously is probably one of the coolest types because one weakness, ground. You resist electric, and I believe steel is the other one.
And flying. Yep. 3 resistances, 1 weakness, and you take a lot of neutral damage, but if you are like Rotom or like Hydreigon, you have access to another immunity as well.
Yeah.
That's the best part of being able to have like these Tera type things is you're also able to gain immunities from your abilities and such as well.
That's why we see grass types, Tera Grass, do so well on these fire types like Arcanine, Armarouge, and things like that.
Yep.
We also see things like Tera Fire Clodsire or Tera Fire Gastrodon. Things that can absorb those water type attacks do really, really well. I think electric overall as a Tera type will be fine. It's not super common.
It's fine. I think that's kind of where it's at. It's just like when you look at the rest of B tier, it's just like, yeah, it's fine. These are all playable types.
Yeah. Grass is an interesting one because this is the point where it's like high risk, high reward, wagering the power that grass gives you in terms of what it does good, but you also have to take the bad. And that's, like you said, with normal, it's just like certain Pokemon are going to thrive with it as a Tera type over others. Think anything with Flash Fire, or just an inherent, like, not normally they have to worry about fire, or maybe can answer a fire type.
grass has 5 weaknesses.
Yep. That's the big thing.
4 resistances, no immunities. So you take a ton of neutral hits. Your resistances are kind of whatever. Like, being able to resist ground is cool. But like water, grass, electric are also kind of common attacking types. So like having those resistances is fine. The only like weakness that you're probably not going to run into is like bug. Just because like bug type attacks are not all that common.
Outside of U-turn, yeah, not that common.
Yeah. But, like, you're going to see a lot of heat waves and flamethrowers and eruptions. So, like, that's a thing. You're going to see a ton of ice beams and ice spinner and blizzard and...
Yeah. Freeze dry.
Yeah, that's the other one.
We could just list moves that grass is weak to all day. But
Poison, you don't see a lot of, like, offensive poison. Outside of, like, Salazzle.
And Amoonguss. Maybe sometimes Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, with, like, Sludge Bomb and or, like, Clear Smog, but like Clear Smog, you're not using it for the attack.
you're using it for the
effect. Yeah. And then of course flying is like, you know, a very good like offensive typing.
Yeah.
But it's not a common like coverage typing. It's just like if you have stuff like Talonflame or you know Roaring Moon, who has like acrobatics and stuff now, that's where you're gonna see it. Like the Pokemon who have flying coverage, you can anticipate it being there.
Yeah. So grass is very high risk, high reward, it feels like. Like you get the potential to be immune to powder moves, so like things like Amoonguss and Brute Bonnet and other Spore users can't really touch you. Rage Powder, you get to ignore that. But it comes with its inherent like weaknesses that grass types normally have, and it can be hard for them to overcome if they're not exactly like Arcanine, Armarouge, or Flash Fire coverage, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's a common type for Pokemon who can abuse it. I think is the simplest way to put it.
Is it enough to move it into A?
I don't know. I think you could probably make the argument of yes, it's not a type you're gonna see on like just any Pokemon. It's not like Steel where you can just slap it on anything and it's probably fine. But things that are Tera Grass are for a very specific reason.
I think the big things you'll see it on are things that are weak to electric, weak to ground. Those are probably the big 2 ones you see. So your fire types, your electric types, your water types. Which that's where this power lies, is just like, I'm trading my current sets of weaknesses and resistances for a different set of weaknesses and resistances in the hopes that my opponent didn't bring this stuff and expect me to Tera this way. That's why you see the Tera Grass Iron Hands, the Tera Grass Iron Bundle, the Tera Grass Armarouge, and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I think you convinced me to put it into A.
Okay, cool. I did a thing.
Going into A, this is just like the good, strong types generically. Water, Fairy, Dark, and Ghost.
So, water's the most common type.
Yeah.
You're basically, I don't think you have essentially any teams that don't have some type of water coverage. I say as I'm looking at these results, and there's the winning team has no water type. And then it's Iron Bundle, Iron Bundle, Iron Bundle, Iron Bundle, Iron Bundle, Iron Bundle.
So, Scarlet and Violet is weird. Okay? So, Scarlet and Violet in general, they don't have very good water types in the terms of VGC.
It's like Dondozo and Palafin. And, like that's it.
That's the big thing. Is like, Palafin has a weird gimmick in order to set up. Dondozo has a weird gimmick to set up. Iron Bundle doesn't have very accurate moves outside of the low-powered stuff, but you want to be hitting them with the high-powered stuff, and so that's kind of a push and pull thing you have to deal with. There's no generic good water type like we had in Sword and Shield. It's harder for water types to thrive, which is why the water Tera type is better, I think. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You want water coverage, but there's no good water Pokemon. Outside of, like, I say not good. It's hard to build around. Because Palafin, you have to commit. Dondozo, it takes up another slot. You have to commit to that. Iron Bundle, there's this whole accuracy thing you got to play around with. If you miss your moves, it's going to feel really bad. And I don't know if people are wanting to play around with that. But things like Water King Gambit are a thing.
So I'm just kind of looking here at, just like, I'm on Showdown looking at like BST water types, just sorted by BST.
Yeah.
It's Palafin, Iron Bundle, Gyarados. Gyarados is their third highest BST as a water type.
Yeah. And it's a Gyarados.
And so then it's like Dondozo.
Which, Dondozo technically gets +2 and everything with Tatsugiri around, but...
Rotom Wash is up there, and then from there it's just like... Here's Tauros. Gastrodon.
Gastrodon. Yeah. Like, water types are strong in the case that they have good defensive typings, because they only have 2 weaknesses. Electric and Grass. And technically Freeze Dry. But not every Pokemon gets Freeze Dry. So
Correct.
But
I don't know. Water types are really weird, man. When they're good, they're really good.
The big thing that they did to water was they got rid of Scald. Fun fact, they got rid of the best water move in the game that was likely broken to begin with.
Yeah.
And
imagine Iron Bundle was Scald.
Oh my god, no. No. I could write a freaking essay on the reasons that Scald being gone from the game is good, and people will still complain about it.
Well, Carl, that's because you're factually incorrect. Scald is great. It's weird not having to play around it anymore.
I'm glad. Because
yeah,
a water
it's
move
a really nice
shouldn't
change.
have a better burn chance than all the fire moves in the game.
Yeah.
Like, it breaks the entire, like, type chart in terms of how moves work. Like, your water type move shouldn't have a better burn chance than almost all of the fire type moves in the game.
I think if they lowered it to, like, 15, it'd be good, but not insane.
Just make it 10 like Flamethrower.
Yeah.
And Fire Blast. If it was 10% like the rest of the fire moves, it wouldn't be a problem. 30% is insane. But this is why water as a Tera type is good, because there's no good water types. Water's still good as a type in general. Defensively, it's strong. Offensively, it hits a lot. You just don't have any good water type Pokemon naturally to play with, so you build your own.
Yep.
Other types in here, Fairy. Fairy's not that great. I think we're going to see just a ton of, like, Tera Fairy Fluttermane, because big damage go burr. But overall, Fairy as a Tera type probably isn't that great.
Yeah. It's fine.
You could probably do this just because people are going to be doing Tera Steel, Tera Fire things still. So Tera Fairy just defensively doesn't line up that great, because most of the time these Pokemon that are Tera Steel or Tera Fire are either going to be carrying Tera Blast to hit the fairies that they're scared of, or just naturally get the coverage like Hydreigon does.
Yep.
Tera Fairy, defensively, you're just, immune to Dragon, and you resist Bug, resist Fighting, resist Dark.
Bug and Dark, yep.
Which, Bug, whatever, cool. Fighting, whatever, cool.
Yeah.
Dark is kind of prevalent, cool. But their big things was you were hitting a lot for neutral damage, you were hitting a lot of types just effectively, just general, but now that they can remove the ones that you're hitting for super effective damage, you're kind of just not really doing a whole lot.
Yep. I don't know, man. I think you can make a fair argument for Fairy being B.
Yeah, it's not that great anymore. It used to be great, and like Sword and Shield Fairy was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
When every Pokemon could be a Steel type, it's not great.
I also think the argument there is like the fairy types we had in Sword and Shield are pretty dang good compared to the fairy types we have here.
Yeah, they did Tinkaton a little dirty.
I think a big part of it is like all your good fairies are your paradox Pokemon, being Iron Valiant, Fluttermane, Screamtail.
Yeah.
So it's just like the new fairies are what? Tinkaton, Doxbun. Is that it?
I'm sitting here trying to go through the Pokedex in my head, trying to think of other new fairies.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. I think it's just those two.
Okay.
So yeah, like fairy as a type is still strong. Like if you're a natural fairy type, you're still a decent Pokemon. It's just you're just not gonna want to Tera into fairy outside of exactly Sylveon. But even Sylveon doesn't even want to do that anymore.
Yeah, looking at the Beanie Tour here, there was a Sylveon here in 4th place. It's Tera Ground.
Ah, they did it. They did the transition. That's hilarious. Okay, cool. I love seeing the Tera type changes for Sylveon. It is awesome because it's just like
there's just been a giant wheel. Just all right, let's spin it for the week and see where we land.
So it started out Tera Fairy for just like max damage hyper voices, and then you went to Tera Fire to resist steel. Well, now people started going like, "Oh, I'm just going to hit you with a super effective ground type attack." Well, now I'm just going to go Tera Water, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
And now it's like, oh, they're going to start going Tera Water. We're going to pack electric coverage. Well, now I'm Tera Ground. Now what are you going to
do? Now we're going to go back to water coverage.
Which, and then we're going to have Tera Grass Sylveon.
which still lines up poorly against Iron Bundle.
Yeah. Iron Bundle is still the problem. But the other two types here are Dark and Ghost. Ghost is probably, arguably, the best offensive type in the game.
It's really good. Normal is immune, but like, how many normal types are actually running around? You hit Psychic and Ghost super effectively, and Dark resist you.
That's it. You hit everything else for neutral. Yep. Now, the Pokemon that are, like, going Tera Ghost usually carry a Ghost-type move. Usually it's just Tera Blast, because that's what the coverage you want. Is just you just want
it's just Shadow Ball.
Yeah. Like, Shadow Ball is still just
giving everything access to Shadow Ball is really good. Who knew?
Yeah. And so, I think Ghost, not to mention just, like, the Pokemon that do Tera Ghost have a weakness to fighting, usually, and it's just like, haha, you can't hit me now. And so it's interesting to see just like how good Ghost will be offensively, defensively going into Series 2, because Fluttermane's a thing. Like, if you can trick the Fluttermane into attacking you and not tearing, then you can just bop him with your Tera Blast.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, here's my Ghost Tera Blast that you weren't suspecting me to do on turn 1. And then you get to play that chicken and that chicken game of chicken where it's just like, am I going to Tera this turn and get you with the Ghost type move? Are you going to switch out? Like, what am I going to do? What are you going to do? And it really gets into your opponent's head sometimes in best of 3. Dark you had ranked really, really high. I think, like we mentioned earlier at the top of the show, that Prankster's going to be better in this generation, in this series, just because the format gets faster, so that priority means more. Murkrow wasn't really doing a whole lot, like, interacting-wise, so it wasn't that prevalent, but things like Sableye are becoming popular. Prankster Will-O-Wisp, Prankster Quash, things like that are going to be good. Brimstar is going to probably tick up a little bit in usage. Probably going to see more Prankster Thunderwave, Prankster Trick, and things like that. Even Prankster Parting Shot's a thing. And so I think Dark-type being an A is fine. I think Dark-type, like, as a utility tool for your support Pokemon, is going to be good. It's going to kind of be like that Grass type, right? It's like the Grass Tera type, the Tera Dark type is going to be like, here's my support Pokemon that I'm trying to keep from interacting with. Boom. Tera Dark Amoonguss is really, really good at doing that. You could probably make an argument to do Tera Dark and DD if you don't have Psychic Terrain. Cool. It'll be interesting to see if Dark stays in my good graces of being a good Tera type, or if we just don't see any prankster Pokemon and it just falls off the face of the earth.
I think that's like the argument, right? It's either really good or terrible.
Yeah. And this is all speculation anyway. It's just like...
Yeah, exactly.
Do we want to keep... like, is Dark going to be amazing? I don't know. It could be. It has the potential to be very, very strong.
So looking here again at just one tour, which is the only one I have pulled up. That's why I continue to reference it. There's a lot of, like, Roaring Moons, but they're, I think, all booster energy acrobatics.
Yeah. And that's, like, the most damage you can deal with Roaring Moon in one go.
Let's see. Past that, other dark types, there's some King Gambits running around. There's a Grimmsnarl here in 12th. And past that, I mean, there's a couple Hydreigon, there's a couple Murkrows and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. I think Sableye will take up a lot more as people start to figure out, hey, this Prankster thing's really good, and no one's playing dark types to punish me. So let's just do that. And then someone's going to come around with a Mungus that's got the Tera Dark, and they're just like, well, I'm sad now. I can't taunt that thing to stop it from putting me to sleep. Oh well. That puts us into the S tier. Steel and Fire. There's not a whole lot to talk about these two. Like,
I also feel like we kind of nailed them all. I talked about them pretty extensively at the top, and I mean we've talked about them pretty extensively throughout the rest of this as well.
Like,
Steel's a very good typing. It's going to continue to be very good.
Fire is actually a very strong typing. Like, I convinced you of that earlier, and while we were getting set up, and overall, I think Fire and Steel, they're not going anywhere. They're probably going to be some of the most common Tera types you're going to see on Pokemon in general.
Fire has 6 resistances.
Yeah.
And 3 weaknesses.
Yep.
Good lord.
Fire
also hits 4 types super effectively.
Yep. Fire is a very strong type.
Yeah. Dude, I would not have realized it until we actually started talking about it.
Yep. Okay. So this is where we're going to be at for Series 2. We're kind of hoping that dark types flourish and somebody doesn't prove us wrong with, like, Terra Poison somewhere. Okay.
But, I think this is fun. This is a good time.
Yeah. It's fun to kind of look at that stuff and kind of analyze what's decent, because the meta shifts constantly. That's a big complaint people are having, is like our series are flying by so fast that the meta is just constantly changing, constantly adapting, and it's hard to keep up with sometimes. That's part of why we haven't really been talking about a lot of the grassroots tours yet, outside of like the deep dives when they happen, because it changes like every event.
Dude, it really does. That's the absurd part.
Like, Sandy Shocks just won Beanie's whatever the tour before on Wednesday.
It had 3 in the top 4.
Yeah, it took the top 3 spots.
It just
out of nowhere,
absurd.
And
it's a Pokemon that I had been trying to like look into and work on a little bit, and like I was like, man, I think this thing is better than what everyone is giving it credit for. And then it'd come out and like have a very good showing at this event.
And then everyone's gonna like, oh, I'm just gonna prepare my iron bundles to beat it, and it's just like, well, now we're sad.
Yep.
The problem with like Sandy Shocks is it's electric and ground, and you can't really Tera away from like a lot of the types that you really want to like avoid. Like, you could Tera grass to avoid the water weakness, but you're still weak to ice. You can Tera electric, but you're still weak to ground. Like, it's
2 of the 3 are Tera grass. The other is Tera dark.
In the deep dive, I saw a Tera dark, a Tera steel, and like a bunch of Tera grass, and 1 Tera electric. The AV set from that video is probably my favorite. I think it's one of my favorite sets because it does the discharge part of the Discquake thing.
Dude, that's the coolest part, is you can pair it next to like just another discharge mon and just sit there and spam it.
Just spam.
Like, sit it next to like Jolteon, where you have Volt Absorb.
Nah, Lightning Rod Pin Church and Go. Or Lightning Rod Raichu.
That is also true.
Or Volt Absorb Punch-a-Chew.
What?
Palmot. I call Palmot Punch-a-Chew.
Oh, I was really confused. I'm like, dude, I know there's a couple Pokemon I didn't know existed, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's Punch-a-Chew because it's the punching Pikachu clone.
Yep.
And it punches at you. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm ready for Orlando. I'm ready for actual data. I enjoy all these grassroots tours, but because everything just changes so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Here's a little piece of tech for you. Palmy doesn't get Volt Absorb, he gets Static.
Yeah.
Is that weird?
No.
Huh.
It's fine.
It's just weird to me that the other two get Volt Absorb, but it gets Static. Imagine if they all got Static instead.
That'd actually be kind of cool.
Actually, might be usable.
Palmot is usable.
Yeah, it gets Revival Blessing. The attack's busted.
It also gets Iron Fist.
Which is also, fine.
Getting access to, perfect coverage on an electric fighting type is so cool because you get Ice and Thunder Punch on this thing with Iron Fist on top of just, I have Drain Punch. I can play Assault Vest all day and I can just heal up. It's fine.
The downside is your bulk is very mediocre.
Yeah. That's why you're Assault Vest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay. Anything else coming up? I know, like I said, we mentioned the Rumble coming up this weekend. It will be Series 2. It's live. Sign up should be available on the Discord or on Limitless. Go and check it out there. You'll need the Rumble roll to get in, so get the Rumble roll in the
come hang out in Discord.
Rolls.
It's really simple.
Yep, just be in the Discord. That's the easiest way to get it. I made it so you have to put in your Discord name on the signups. So now if you don't get the Rumble roll on your own, I can give it to people without having to guess who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I made it a little bit easier for everyone, but still should just get the Rumble roll when you join the Discord.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that puts a wrap on 152.
I think you're right. I think I'm ready to go take another nap.
You don't need another nap.
God, I'm exhausted, man. This is all I've done today, and I'm exhausted.
You're fine.
Oh, you say that, but man, I'm going to sleep good tonight.
I know exactly what you're going to do when we get done. You're going to go back to playing TMNT or whatever. And
no, I have to go figure out what we're doing for dinner.
I already did that. I already did that.
And then probably back to TMNT.
Okay. Get us out of here, bub.
So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on any of the audio platforms, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out a ton. If you want to follow us, you can always do that over on Twitter at LR Lessons. You can follow Carl and myself at Mr. Missouri 25 and at Musical VGC. Past that, you can come and hang out with us on Discord. That link is always down in the show notes. And, our Discord's great. Obviously, that's where you're going to get to play in all of our events and everything. So make sure you come and join. You can follow Carl and myself on Twitch as well at Mr. Missouri 25 and at Musical. And, let's see, what else are we missing? Check out the website.
Yeah.
That is at lrlessons.com. While you're over there, check out the merch page. We might have some more articles going up here sooner rather than later as well.
Ooh.
So I'm very, very excited for all
Scarlet
of that.
and Violet articles?
Yeah, man, it's going to be great. And go ahead and go on over to patreon.com where you can follow us. And for as little as 50 cents an episode, you can help keep us keep our lights on and all that good stuff. I do want to give a special shout out to our $10 plus members. We have Johnny Bravo Sr., which I am very sorry I forgot you. I think last episode. I'm so sorry. Please don't yell at me.
Yell at him. Get him.
We have Papa Swish and Dylan of Paul Day as well. So special shout outs to them. Thank you all so much for the support. And I think that's actually it. I think we're actually factually done. So, All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good week. And until then, have a good one. Peace.